Pleasant good afternoon to one and all. Good afternoon. A pleasant good Friday afternoon to one and all. Welcome to this afternoon's episode of Speaking Out, Exposing Corruption, Incompetence. Welcome. Today, Friday, the second day of May 2025. And here we are again for the third time this week to bring you up to date with what is going on. And I've said repeatedly, we're going to come, we're going to analyze, we're going to dissect, and we're going to read between the lines and bring it to you. My colleague, Mr. Conway, is here, ready, waiting, and we are going to rock and roll. Like every day, we have so much to tell you again today. We have lots and lots of stuff to tell you. And that is why we took a decision that we couldn't wait until Monday. So we had to come again today, even though we were here on Monday, we were here Wednesday. So we come for the third time this week. And Barled, yes, 3 geriatrics were able to come for the second straight week, 3 times in 1 week. We came 3 times last week, and here we are again 3 times this week, which is an achievement, especially for us geriatrics. So yes, here we are. And like everything else, I will encourage you today more than any other day to share the live, because even one of the regulars came on a while ago and he said he didn't realize that we had classes this afternoon. When the notification was sent, we did say so on Wednesday, and then the notification was sent yesterday afternoon. We sent the notification to advise you that we are going to have class from 4 o'clock today. And here we are. We even went so far to tell you that the gates will be open from 1 o'clock. And as soon as the program was scheduled at 12:59, people jumped on immediately. That is what we like to see. The enthusiasm is there. The only thing you're not enthusiastic about is giving the thumbs up, because we have over almost 500 there now already, and we only have 18 thumbs up. You got to do better than that. You have got to do much better than that. We're not here for the thumbs up. We're here to bring you credible, valuable information. But the thumbs up help to get the program more circulated more. The algorithms kick in, and more people get to know about the program. So yes, we're gonna come. Last Wednesday we were here. I think we broke the record in terms of attendance in class, as well as in the schoolyard, and that is what we want to see. That encourages us to come and bring you the information. As I've said, we have a lot to tell you. This Friday afternoon, another great day that the Lord has made. Let's rejoice and be glad in it. Let's give praise and thanks to be in the land of the living. It's a privilege to be in the land of the living, and we must always give praise and thanks to the Almighty for allowing us to see this new day as we prepare for this weekend. On Wednesday, when we were here on Wednesday, I forgot to remind us all that the following day, which was yesterday, would have been a public holiday in Guyana in respect of Labor Day. The month of May in Guyana, 3 holidays. Labor Day, May 1. Then on Monday, May 5th is Arrival Day. And then on the 26th is Independence Anniversary. So we have lots of holidays, 3 holidays. I don't think there's any other month. I'm sure there's no other month in the year with this many holidays. So yes, here we are this Friday afternoon. I know some of you are preparing to go to spend a wonderful weekend. Friday afternoon for a lot of people is the time when you go bar hopping from work. You go and you let down all week. You were stressed out. You take your finey, as you would say, you take your finey. We're not going to deprive you of that. But we know even as you take your finey, you will want to get valuable and credible information. So here we are to bring it to you. Now, we're going to do the roll call quickly this afternoon. Then we're going to go into the announcements. And then we are going to go into the main thing. Now, in terms of the roll call, we had that issue again where I had to come out of the studio. When we got back in, the first 20 students who came in, the first man came in at 12:59, and the first 20 students were dropped off. So I would not be able to put the names up on the screen, but I'm going to call them because I have a record of those who came in. And 12:59, as I said, first man out of the UK was Wayne. Then we had Aubrey Gravesandi, he came at 1. Ulrich from West Side, Sean, Tessa, Joan from New Amsterdam, and Brian, Saul, they all came in at 1. And shortly after, we had Lucius, Moore, Brenda, Courtney, uh, Henrik, Hesla, Anthony, Mary, that's Mary Smith, Patricia, Gaston out of Canada. Then we have, who is this? Magnell, and then Morton. So all those names were dropped off. And the name that we have here as the first is John. John is here. He came in at 1:06. Then we had the Angel, Benji from Myconi. Vibord, Smitty is here with us. Smitty, how the system crying out for people with your experience, your investigative skills, right? Ridley as well, the Angel. Sad theory as to what is going on. They know. No proper investigators. Kerry is here. Kevin was a former commander, not what you have at West Demerara now. Those people are not commanders. Many of them are commandos. They are commandos. Dion, Vashni, Aubrey, Winston out of California, Clay, Jakey is here with us, Karen, Claire, Pito from Queens, Pamela, West Dem, Denise, then we have Russ Levi is here, Terrence from Canada, Kurt, Dexter, then it was Conor Rookman, Claude, Sandra, Patricia, Albert, Dennis, Stefan, Dwayne, Lyndon, Isabella is here with us, Walterine, David, Paulette, Fatima, then it was Wayne, another Wayne, Rosalind, Cecile, Sean, Hart Crawford is here, Terrence TK from California, Felicia, Cranston, Elroy, Nello is here with us, Leon, Randa, and Ashley Clive from the UK is here. Then it was Ainsworth, our good friend Kay is here with us. Princess Hall from Lamar Springs. Rhonda, that I'm still in the house. Brian, Vibert, Sharon. Then it was Abera, Dorette, Ingrid, Lorraine, Moses, Clyde, Melinda, Olive, Daniel, Clarence, Keith Francis Keith from Melinda Mashana, Karen, Lester, Nicola, Lyndon, Terrence, George, Clifton is here with us from Paris. Umi is here. Brian, can't recall that seen that student before. Claude, Edgar Passad is here with us. 65142. Edgar is here with us. Mark, Winslow, and you know, Edgar was a fantastic police, fantastic investigator. A dying breed. Clifton, Pastor Smith is here with us. Donald, Carl, Rayburn, Doreen out of Canada. Danny, another fantastic investigator, is here. Tessa, Simoa, Westmas, that is David. Annette, MP Annette is here with us. Welcome. Dion, Verlin, Anthony, Simone, Sanjit Bade, Rickford, Mark. Then it was Russ, Mark again. Then another Mark, Ezzy, Carlton. Then it was Melville, Patricia, or Patrick. Sorry, Patrick, I call you Patricia. 12128, Patrick Rodney. Then we had Marcus. Then it was another Annette is here. Nigel Sidman, another new student, I guess. Diane, Gavin, David, Audrey, Vivian, Denise, the secretary, Lennox, Selwyn, my lawyer from Canada, is here. That's how they refer to him. Slow lawyer from Canada. Selwyn is here. Welcome. Andrew, Corinne, Franklin, Frankie is here. Then it was Lyndon, Harold, Paulette, Kali is here with us. Then it was Arthur as the last student in the schoolyard. And when the doors are open, we have Claudine Abu from Essequibo, Trifosa is here, Rosie Rose. Then it was Altia, Icon, Brian, and the list goes on and on and on. So yeah, we tell you, a lot of students, even though it's a Friday afternoon, and on schedule arrangement, well, when I say on schedule, not the regular days, because the regular days are Mondays and Wednesdays. But we have to stitch in this extra because we have a lot more things to talk about. Let me give you quickly the announcements. You got to keep reminding you that this is an election year and, stupid season, it's crazy season, silly season, all sort of nonsense you're gonna hear. Then I announced some time ago the death of this detective sergeant, female detective sergeant Melanie Hale. Well, information is that she's been buried today. We did announce that, but the funeral is today at Wisma. I guess it's ongoing right now, right, at Wisma. And then we told you about the death of Deputy Superintendent Brown, who died in an accident. I think it was Saturday night into Sunday morning. Then I have a big squad mate. We learned died sometime yesterday, 93. I think what was his number? 67. He was Cooper at one stage. His name is Alan Alexander. He was, in our squad, we had 3 Alexanders. We had 66 Alexander. We used to call him Cats. 67 Alexander, his brother, who is the deceased. And we also had 68 Alexander, 3 Alexanders, right? They said he died at the GPH3 on Tuesday. Then we told you about the death of former West Indies Guyana Barbies police cricketer Milton Paidana. Just want to remind you all that the latest we have is that the funeral will take place on Monday. Well, there's be a funeral service on Monday in Brooklyn at the Restoration Temple Assemblies of God Church. That's 4610 Church Avenue, Brooklyn. And they said the viewing is from 4 to 6 and the service is from 6 to 8. I learned too yesterday that body will be taken to Guyana, and I think it's on the 12th. I'm going to tell you about it before. On the 12th, there's going to be a service in Guyana for Milton Paidana. So all indications he'll be laid to rest in Guyana. And then, every day is something, we told about the psychiatric nurse who died in an accident. Then we had the Baggers Tongue man who was shot dead after some altercation. And then we're hearing this morning that yesterday a clothes vendor was shot and killed. Something story. And it's a real Jim Cockburn Ramgoat story they're telling you, right? A suspected murder. I don't know. A man, you get information, a man was shot. They said they turned up and found a pistol alongside this man. They arrested someone as a suspect, and they tell you it was suspected murder. So I guess it could have been suicide as well, I guess, based on the reported. It's a murder. It's a murder, right? So we have all of that. And let me remind you too, as I will do every program, that today is the 413th day since Sergeant Alex Vaughn was shot and killed by one of his colleagues. That's what they claim. It was one of his colleagues. 413 days since that happened. Now let me give you some, what we said, happier news. Birthday greetings going out to retired sergeant, former sergeant, must say, Stephen Fraser. There are 2 Stephen Frasers. The one was the police at the police finance office. And then you have the senior counsel. But he's not the senior counsel. This is Stephen Fraser. We used to call him Brokan. He was part of my contingent when we went with the United Nations in 1989 to Namibia. Brokan. What is Brokan number? 8568, I think it was. I got to know, I remember all these numbers, but I think 8568 rings a bell, Fraser. So those, well, I should have said before, condolences to all those persons, the relatives and friends of the deceased persons, and happy birthday to all those who are celebrating today, who celebrated recently, and who are celebrating in the near future. Let me bring in Mr. Conway, and then we are going to get on with it. CC, welcome.
Thank you. Praise the Lord. We're in the land of the living to do God's work. Condolences in order. Birthday greetings in order. And as you mentioned, we have a whole lot of things to discuss. So let's get on with it.
Yeah, and I'm wondering where to start. As I've said repeatedly over the past couple of days, we're going to deal with this issue with the death of this child. The death of this child. You can see all kind of thing going around the place, all kind of thing going around on social media and elsewhere, all type of account you're hearing. And following the disturbance on Monday, one of the distressing things we learned, we were told that there were 2 children and some adults that were doused with acid. And of course, the government make a big thing. The president went to visit them and so on. I am reliably informed that incident had nothing to do with the protesters. Some domestic story, and the children accidentally got born. That is what I'm told from a family member, right? But you know, as I say, in this silly season, they can jump. Everything is political. Everything is political. They can jump. So I am informed reliably so that that is not what took place, right? Where they're claiming that these children were deliberately born. So let me. I got some notes. I'm looking for it. Hold on. Yeah. Well, here we go. And then we have the president making a statement. I'm going to deal with that about the cause of death and all kind of things they're saying. All kind of things they're saying. The fact of the matter is that we should get a independent investigation going on. Perhaps, as we have said, FBI, Scotland Yard, the Scotland Yard, the Moncty, people who understand these things, who have the expertise to investigate. People, not what's going on now. That cannot be a proper, credible investigation. In any event, people do not have confidence in the police. People do not have confidence. So, and I say this with all due respect to some of the very good investigators we have. The atmosphere is so poisonous that if those men were to do their best, people are going to satisfy. Because people are already complaining and they're alleging hold a while, somebody calling and bouncing me off. Right? People, hold on, let me just deal with this. People call you during the program and they bounce you off. Right. So, yeah, you need to get some credible organization. Government get money. Why can't you not reach out to the FBI or the Moncties or the Scotland Yard to come and do an investigation? Right? Investigate everything if you want to satisfy people that this thing, as some people claiming, or she drowned in the pool. Nonsense. All the evidence suggests otherwise. All the evidence suggests otherwise. Even the release now that the police is giving. And we're going to deal with that. Even the release that they are giving raise more questions than answered. And let me go into it. But before I go into that, I want to deal with a particular matter. And let me start off by saying, because I know these people that's come and tell you all sort of things. What we saw there on Monday in Georgetown and other places, following the result of this postmortem examination, is to be condemned in the strongest manner. We saw people running amok, lighting fire on the road, assaulting other people. There's a report or allegations of looting. Cannot be condoned, cannot be justified. But let me understand what's really going on. You know, you got to walk this thing through. Hold on. We got to walk this thing through. The police, let me say this, and I'm speaking here as a former senior policeman, 37 years of service. Nobody can say that I'm anti-police. I'm anti-corruption and incompetence. That police, I have lots and lots of police friends. But the police action or lack of action is what caused in some this thing to deteriorate. Girl went missing on Wednesday. Report made to the station. Same day. Right? Same day. What did they do? Some perfunctory search and so on. Nothing proper was done. Right? Then to aggravate the whole situation, and people tend to forget this, I'm going to deal with it. The police issued a release to say that this girl was seen entering some car. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more. And it turned out to be a lie. It turned out to be a total lie. That is the night, Wednesday night. Thursday, the command and these people telling the people too that this girl seen somewhere down the road, all designed to move the people away from the scene so they can do their mischief. But luckily, the father was convinced that his daughter was still on that premises. And then the body miraculously turned up. And then what happened? Even when the body turned up, inappropriate police action. Why did they remove the body from there? I understand, yes, the father jumped into the pool and put the body out the pool. But then proper police action would have dictated that you cordon the area, cover the body perhaps, and you get the medical examiner to go there and to do a preliminary examination. You get your photographers. from the crime scene unit to go there and take still photographs, take video photographs, and all. Nothing was done. Then the police put the body in some police vehicle and spirited away from the scene. So if the correct thing had been done, there would not have been a question now as to whether the girl had cotton in her nostrils, as was being suggested, because a proper photographing of the body at the scene would have, I'm sure they saw that, they would have taken that out. So all of those things would have been dispelled, but they did not do a proper job. You can't swing that. Even the spin doctors they get, they're trying to, but it's coming up short. It is coming up short. It is implausible, some of the explanations they're giving. Yes, the doctors, the pathologists said she died from drowning. I'm not going to dispute that. But where did she drown? Where did she drown? Certainly, it wasn't in the pool. From all the evidence that is before us. Yes, Machiko, you take the photograph of the body in situ. That is what I said. At the same place, in situ. I didn't want to use the term, but that is the correct thing. You take photograph of the body in situ and in situ. And now that you have a lot of videos and so on, you would have video recorded everything there as well. Everything there. And that would have cleared up a lot of the concerns, a lot of the doubts that you have now. All right. So they did that. They come up with this bullshit story about the man in the red and black car. They came with a number, the license number. They claim that they saw this thing leaving. They claim that the Georgetown Command Center saw this car parked on the East Bank, on the West Bank of Demerara. All that is BS. Well, I don't know about the park in the car. They arrested the man in the morning or Thursday morning, right, for hit and run accident. Then they say it's abduction. Man spent all day at the police station, even after the body was suddenly appeared alongside the pool, right? And I say again, that man, he says he's a Muslim, right? Say he practices Islam as his religion. Buddy, you got to pray and pray and pray and thank Allah, because it looked like you were being set up to get a murder charge or something like that. It looked like you've been set up. You were being set up. Because when they give description of car and they give license plate number and all them everything, that, and when you're arrested on the morning of Thursday for hit and run, and then they say abduction, you are extremely lucky, my friend. The commander, you know what aggravates the whole situation? This is not two recruit constables who were on the scene. The commander of the police division was there, and he did not know, he did not cause proper policing action to be taken. And that is unforgivable. They said they send him on administrative leave. More than that should happen to him. More than that. He should be asked to resign. Give you whatever benefit you got to get. I don't think you should make him lose his benefit now. Give him and let him go. Because where you going to bring him back to put him? What type of confidence people have with a man who shits so big on a matter like this? Where you going to bring him and put him? Let me ask that question. His days in the force should be over and done with, like the commissioner of police should be over and done with as well. So, all right, we come to Monday. We know that there was to be the postmortem examination by Monday. Because we know that. Because they said the postmortem examination should have been done on Friday. All right, they brought in some man from Barbados, some Mr. Paul. I remember the name was Dr. Paul, right? Dr. Paul. Dr. Paul was revealed, people Google, we did the research too to discover that Dr. Paul is not even doing postmortem examinations in Barbados. We said the man had no real credentials as a pathologist. All right. The family decided they're going to bring in the independent pathologist, and the government bring in another man. So therefore, I'm saying with the 3 pathologists there, perhaps there were even more, I don't think you can really question the findings that the girl died from drowning, right? But where did she die? And the fact that she died from drowning doesn't rule out homicide. Doesn't rule out the fact that somebody forcibly put she under water or killed her or gave her some substance for her to be unconscious and then put her in the water for her to drown. And despite the running around, and then you have to do the toxicology. They would have taken samples from the lung, from the body, and so on. And you're going to do the toxicology, and the toxicology will perhaps reveal more. Because if she drowned in the pool as they are claiming, then one would expect the pool water will be different to any water that she might have drowned in. So the toxicology will do all of that. And I say then, this whole story of the cause of death was poorly managed and poorly handled. Because the police and all the people, them, the government and all them ropes and men, ought to have anticipated that if an unfavorable, what people consider an unfavorable result was revealed, then you're likely to have adverse reaction from people. People who are pent-up rage. So what happened? No revelation. How did we know about it? The family, the father, I think, and they say, well, they say is drowned in. But if the people, the professional people had done what they were supposed to do, give a release and say, well, this is just a preliminary, that doesn't rule out homicide. I don't believe people would have reacted the way in which they reacted. And then what happened? No control of the compound. So then you had the old mortuary compound full of people, police, civilian, and everything. No control of that area. No cordon. Nothing. Police riot, police turn up. Guns. People, even though they turn up, civilian walking all through the place where they're supposed to have had control. Then later in the day, ranks from the TSU, when I saw that, I would say, I turn up and start shooting up at the people in the hospital compound. In the hospital compound, a police told me, police said I was there on duty. When they start shooting, I had to run for my life because they were so indiscriminate in the way they were firing. All the run, people had to run. And I said on Wednesday, and I'm saying again, I think there's no one in Guyana who is more qualified because of experience in dealing with crowd disorder than me. Now, when I used to train, you have riot drills and crowd control drills, I used to train that. But I had a practical experience on the road myself, how to deal with it. And then this madness to get everybody shooting while. Never part of the training. The man who is in charge, the commander, if it is necessary to engage the crowd, there are stages, warning, all it going on. I have not seen a single police officer, should be or inspector, with a loud hailer to warn people to dispose. I have not seen, maybe they were there, but I have not seen any. I made the point, even the cars are supposed to get loudspeaker system to warn people to move off. And I've said before, I'm saying it again, crowd psychology teaches us that once you do that, because you have a crowd, it will tell you that a sizable number of people are just curious onlookers. They're fast. They see a crowd and they come. They see a crowd and they fall in because they want to see what's going on. Now, the psychology says that if you give a proper warning, those people who don't really want to be there in no mix-up will leave and they will go their way. They will leave and go. Because remember, they're not there to cause any problem. They just pass and they see a crowd. They don't really know what the crowd for. But they get a little time on their hand and they fast, so you do that. People would have moved away. Some would have definitely moved off. Now, if the people continue to be there, you get it after the warning. There are stages of engagement. You try to make arrests. You get your button section until you try to make arrests. If that does not work, you might need to go into less lethal force. But most times it stays smoke. That rubber, sometimes, and then go on. Once you go into firing, let me understand this thing clearly, and that is the protocol. Before you go into firing, especially during the course of the day, there is a big banner. I don't know if they get it now. It is raised in the air, and the banner marks, disperse or we will fire. People are warned. People are warned to disperse or you will fire. But what we saw there, indiscriminate firing. And when you get to firing, and I know this, I say again, let them come and question me. The man in charge on the ground will identify one of the men, whether it's one of the riflemen, and when we say riflemen, we mean they carry a lethal barrel rifle, because the riflemen carry shotgun. You identify one of those, and you tell him, identify and fire one round. One round, that is the command. They fire the one. If it is that you got to fire again, somebody's identified, then they fire. But that is everything, everybody shooting like Wild West, bam, 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 bam. They give you that in Baghdad or somewhere. So that is not what was trained in my day. I guess no training goes on now. Some people don't know that. That is not what happens. That is not what is supposed to happen. You do that, right? Now, an important aspect, before I bring in Mr. Conway, a very important aspect in this whole process is that if you are going to make arrest, if it gets to the point where you're going to make arrest, you have to be able to say what every single individual was doing, every single person you arrest was doing. Because you're going to get some people just standing up, lay by the end, doing nothing, and you run, wild. And because I should have mentioned too, that early in the game, you got to read the riot proclamation. You have to read the riot proclamation, which says, His Excellency the President charges and commands all persons being assembled immediately to disperse to the lawful business or place of habitation upon the pain of being guilty on conviction for which they may be sentenced to imprisonment for life by command of the President. I might have mixed up some of the words, but it is contained in the Criminal Law Offences Act. You read the riot proclamation. You know why you want to read the riot proclamation? Because the law allows that, the law says that once the riot proclamation is read, all persons in that area have 15 minutes to disperse. And if they fail to disperse, then they would have committed an offense. So they don't have to do nothing really. If you read the riot proclamation, they got to move within 15 minutes. And because of that, this thing aches me a lot. Because of all of those arrangements, that when you turn out on the scene, you ought to have someone that we call the recorder. He makes a note of everything, because if the law says 15 minutes, you got to make a note that the riot proclamation was read at 4 o'clock. By whom? Because the law says it's the justice of the peace or the mayor of the town got to read the riot proclamation. Everybody. So police officers are made ex officio justice of the peace. That is one of the purposes for which they are made ex officio. But what we saw there on the ground, who was in command? I see somebody on social media blaming McBee. McBee was not in command of the riot unit there. He was sent, I think, with the doctors. We saw that from very early. But these loose cannons, they're blaming everybody. He was not the person and the unseen commander, even though he was a senior man. That doesn't mean that you're the commander. The ranks who came there came from TSU. So TSU ought to have had an unseen commander there. Who was that person? It wasn't evident. It was not evident that there was a commander there. So again, all because it is clear that the proper training, I don't know if it goes on, but the proper sequence of events. So what? They arrest men right now. Now you're hearing that a lot of people who were arrested and charged with terrorism were just casual bystanders. And I say this to say, before I bring in CC, I said so before, hope you get the evidence. Because the fact that a person was standing there, that doesn't mean that they committed any offense. And you have got to say, if you arrested John Jones, exactly what he was doing. You got to say exactly what he was doing. I know some of them might come, I know the characters, and tell a lot of lie and so on, but you tell lie from people, you got to live with it. You got to live with it. Who recalled some time ago in Berbice with the sugar workers at some demonstration, right? Think they charge all of them. They are charged them with terrorism, They are charged with sugar workers, most of them Indians in Berbice. I think it was last year. They are charged them with terrorism. They charged them, they went to court. And they all got off because they couldn't give the evidence to say what the people were doing. I think they were represented by Kemraj Ramjatan. Yeah, I must check it out. Not terrorism, some other offense. But in Georgetown, it's terrorism. Let me bring in Mr. Conway. We're going to deal some more with this terrorism thing. CC, I had a long spell about in the man. Time for you to take over.
All right. Now, this whole thing, starting from the hotel, is that the police screw up big time? Massive screwing up. I said on previous episode that you win or lose a case by your actions or lack of actions at the scene of a crime. And this was a crime scene. I had a slide, but I have it in writing here. Talk about approaching the death scene. things that you must do, and they call it preliminary. Preliminary. Permit me, let me go through. Thank you, Paul, for doing that. Proceed to scene and assess situation. Was that done? The commander was there. Did he assess the situation? Render aid to injured. Well, I know if anybody was injured. C. Affect arrest. Was anybody under arrest? Every member of the staff that should have been under arrest. Locate weaknesses. Did they make any attempt to locate any weaknesses? Did they interview witnesses and the complainant? And this one is critical. Maintain crime scene and protect evidence. It didn't happen. They didn't maintain, see no tape or no nothing. People inside, outside, all about the place. Maintain crime scene and protect evidence. Inform other police officers. And this one is H. Note all conditions, events, and remarks. I don't think it happened. Note all conditions, events, and arrange for searching scene and collecting evidence. That wasn't done. They didn't arrange for searching the scene, or they do just little wishy-washy thing and collecting evidence. Report incident and yield responsibility. And the thing is, I always talk about Lockhart theory of exchange, or the ABC of Lockhart theory exchange. A, the perpetrator will take away traces of victims and the scene. B, the victim will retain traces of the perpetrator, and the perpetrator may have traces of himself or herself on the thing there. And C, the perpetrator will leave behind traces of himself or herself on the scene. The thing is that you have to do proper processing. You got to do meticulous work. You got to do professional work, or you lose it. And I think your emotions too. Look at your emotions. You got to be cool. You got to be calm. You got to be detached. Your emotions. Some people, when they see violence, when they see brutality, they get confused. Always remember my incident when I was the force training officer. A female called me a Sunday morning. I'm like, sir, terrible things happening. Terrible things happening in the college. I said, where is she? Terrible, terrible, terrible. I said, please, corporal, let me hear she. Terrible, terrible, terrible things happening. Terrible things. So I said, put on somebody else on the phone. And a recruit came on and said, what's happening there, girl? So them females demon possessed, they're catching antibanto. But the couple couldn't tell me. She emotions run away from her, thing there. And the thing is, boss, if you're going to deal with the situation, you have to make sure that you behave professionally. Things that happen. They said the girl admitted that she entered the wrong date. So if she entered a wrong date, are we to assume, what the civilian saying, are we to assume that this female, this 11-year-old, was there previously at the hotel and she joined a vehicle on another date and went away? And on another date, the person was spotted at Vredenhoop and elsewhere? That's what I say, that she entered a wrong date. And then she admitted to wrong date. And they say it's an error. It can't be an error. It got to be a lie. It got to be a lie. And there's it. The commander say, I got thing for my phone. This the girl already left and she tell him to go away. There was no commander and lies. Attempt to send away the persons so they can do what they maybe were told to do. And this thing is about, what you asked, was it a suicide? Was it a homicide? Was it accidental? Was it natural? Was it undetermined? Jump high, jump low. that girl died from drowning, I'm convinced, but not in the pool. I recall, when I was a corporal in 1979, I think it was a Sunday after Jonestown Ball. I got a report early morning that a guy drowned at a place called Ottaquai in the Iroquois River. He drowned on a dam in a pool that had about 5 inches of water. Repeat, on a dam in a pool that had about 5 inches of water. The captain reported the matter, and I went across to the hospital. The police station just opposite the hospital, and I spoke to the doctor, and I advised him, say, let me go to the scene. It was about 2 hours drive by boat, to go to the scene. And later on in my career, when I get these things, I always used to carry doctors to the scene. And when we went there, we saw the pool with about 5 inches of water. The body was right next to it because the captain had taken him out from the water. And the doctor said that he wanted to talk to the family. And when he interviewed them, they admitted that, hey, this boy used to get what we call fits. Yeah, seizure. He used to catch fits. And apparently, he catch fits and fall in a little 5-inch pool of water. And I remember the funeral also. During the funeral, he had a 14-year-old sister and a 10-year-old brother. And while the funeral service going on, they catch fits too, So persons could die they ain't gonna die in a pool. And this was 5 inches of water. And remember the doctor wrote, frothing through the nostril, water in the stomach, water in the lungs, cause of death, asphyxiation due to drowning. And then when we look at what happened at the hospital there, total chaos, no command, no control. As you said, they're trying to blame McBean. They put McBean, a deputy commissioner, in charge of to provide security for 3 pathologists. That was his role. That is his principal role, to in charge of 3 pathologists. I would have given a lesser person, maybe a good superintendent, if you have any. And there got to be good superintendent around to do it. But if you put McBean there in charge of the escorting those men around because they were fearful, what happened to Watts? What happened? What happened to Budram? What happened to Karen Bash? What happened to Budram? But then it's an operation work. And Watts should have been in charge of operations in the division whilst McBean was looking after those people. But here, he'd been at the back of TSU watching a excavator, a bobcat, moving some sand behind the TSU building. And the thing is that they didn't sit down and plan it, and they didn't get any kind of intelligence. They are talking about intelligence-led report. They had no kind of intelligence, and they can't get to, because they take a triple jumper and make it here a special branch. All he could do, understand he's a marksman, and he could hit the target from different ranges. So they get the triple jumper there as a head of special branch. How could they get intelligence information? They always talking about intelligence-led. And I must admit that I condone all those happening there. All the looting, all the burning, and all the shooting, even the action by the police there, some of the action police there. As I condemn those actions, because nobody was in command, as you mentioned, Paul, and control of that red unit. Command and control, even their own police had to run. Big shooting up in the hospital, and it was total chaos. Total chaos, all because they didn't plan tactically, they didn't plan strategically. Didn't do that. And they have 5 deputy commissioners, 5 deputy commissioner, and they put in Mark Bean all over the place. And I want to believe that behind the scene they're setting him up for fail. He should be the commissioner of being commissioner before he can. They set him up to fail. They can say, you see, it's his division. You see what mean his division, but they're not going to say that he was looking after those pathologists. That's what they're going to do. Set him up, something happened, and then blame him because they're sheltering Budram. Budram is in the corner, and he's another man earmarked to become commissioner. Well, what's is a while loose? Sometimes maybe it's a good thing he didn't go there too, because the situation might have been worse. But the actions of the police there, I wish they could condemn in many instances, Paul, that they had no proper planning and they had no proper execution. And then I always remember what my former DPP used to say, when you're incompetent and you try your incompetent best, you are still incompetent.
Well, when Watts went out on the road at Edda Special Branch in 2022 following the Quindon Bacchus killing, Watts was there at Edda Special Branch shooting indiscriminately in the air. We get tape with that. We have tape with that. So there must be no why they didn't send Watts anywhere there, because he would have been leading the shooting. Now, I don't normally deal with trolls, My students will tell me don't deal with trolls. Look, I will respond to this one. Look what he's saying. Some troll named Ravi Rupnarayan. He said, you remember when you dropped your cell phone in the New Amsterdam stealing? He said stealing, he can't even spell. And somebody found it and gave it back to you, you lock up the guy for 3 days. Lie. Let me tell you, what happened, students. I like to think, we got good memory. I went to visit as the commander. I went to conduct an official visit inspection in West Berbice. When I came back over, my driver, our police car, stood in the car, sat at the back, and I had the cars to come out at the New Amsterdam Stelling, the New Amsterdam side. And when I can't remember why I came out, but I went back in the car and then drove to divisional headquarters in Coburg Street there, right? And then when I got there, I realized my phone missing. I realized that my cell phone was missing. So I tell the driver, let me go back, because I suspected that it might have been dropped off. When we went back to the Stelling, right? I think he was a police then. Jack, y'all remember Shah Jack? He was a rural constable or something. Jack came to me, and Jack said, Commander, what are you looking for? I said, I think we dropped my phone somewhere. He said, come. And he took me to a man who was standing up there. He said, he picked up the phone. I saw when he picked up the phone. And when we the man had my phone in his possession. He was arrested and taken to the station. He was arrested and taken to the station. I never believe he was charged. I can't remember if he was charged, but he was arrested. The man picked up the phone. You ever hear what lastly by finding? The man saw the police commander phone drop and picked it up. It's Jack. I think he was a civilian then. Shah Jack. People in New Amsterdam know Jack. People in A Division in the days would know Jack. Busybody Jack all around the place. Jack saw, so when I got there, Jack approached me, said, look, this man pick up your phone. He came in, the man wasn't standing there. He said, come, you run. I've seen it good. You run straight to the man. Said, this man pick up the phone. When I think the driver, I can't remember, it might have been Williams or somebody, check here, he get the phone in his pocket. He has the phone, so he had no intention of returning the phone. So this Ravi Rupner right talking a lot of crappy. I said, I don't normally respond to them, but I got to tell you all them things because I don't forget. I got good memory. I don't forget. He was a blasted thief. And if he spent 3 days, I can't remember how long he spent, but if he spent 3 days, he deserved to spend 3 days. And I don't think he spent 3 days because I remember he coming to me sometime after and begging to eat and all him everything. Yeah, then he's Jack, Shah Jack. So they could go and ask Jack with this jackass we're talking in. I don't lie, I just remember them things very, very, I can't remember the date when it happened and all of that, but I remember the incident very well. I remember that incident very well. Now let me tell you all about, in terms of the thing, I read a letter this morning, right? I read a letter this morning, which says, and it's today's Stabrook News by one Keith Bernard. And I thought I'll read it. Let me read it to you all. The headline or the caption is, the state risks diluting the seriousness of terrorism by politicizing criminal incident relating to public disorder, theft, and arson. Dear editor, I write with deep concern over the recent decision to charge 29 individuals with terrorism under the Criminal Law Offences Act, as reported in your April 30th article. 29 remanded over terrorism charges. This move appears both myopic and reactionary, and could have troubling implications for justice and democratic expression in Guyana. The events that unfolded, allegedly involving looting and arson following the release of the autopsy report in the Adriana Young's case, are undoubtedly serious and deserving of firm legal response. However, to characterize these acts as terrorism stretches the legal and moral understanding of what constitutes terrorism. These incidents, while criminal, are more accurately prosecuted under the existing law dealing with public disorder, arson, and theft. By invoking terrorism legislation in this context, the state risks diluting the seriousness and precision of the term terrorism, which should be reserved for acts intended to cause mass fear, destruction, or death for ideological or political purposes. Such a broad and politicized application not only erodes the credibility of the legislation, but may also discourage lawful protests and civil dissent, which are fundamentally to a healthy democracy. Moreover, Guyana has made commendable strides in addressing terrorism, financing, and related risks, and as noted in regional reports such as the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force mutual evaluation. However, this kind of overreach may cast doubt on our nation's commitment to proportionality, fairness, and human rights in legal proceedings. If we continue to conflate civil unrest with terrorism, we run the risk of undermining public confidence in our justice system and inviting legitimate criticism from international human rights observers. The government and judiciary must act with care and measured judgment, ensuring that the enforcement of laws is grounded in fairness, proportionality, and justice, not political expediency. I concur fully with this letter by Mr. Keith Bernard. Let me say. Now, can you honestly say to people that what took place there on Monday, Georgetown and elsewhere, can be described as terrorism? Can you honestly say that? Terrorism? And let me tell you, when you're talking terrorism, let me remind you all about 9/11, where two planes flew into the World Trade Center, planes flew other ways. That is terrorism. You have Oklahoma bombing by Timothy McVeigh. Drove a park a vehicle, bring down the old side of the building, 170-something people there. That is terrorism, right? People blowing up airplane, like in the case over Lockerbie, Panam, I think it's 103. That is terrorism, right? And people driving cars into innocent people and killing them. But when you talk, and again, just like Mr. Bernard, I say, what happened there is to be condemned and to be treated condignly by the four, but that is not terrorism. You're diluting what the meaning of terrorism is. But as he said here, those things are fundamental to a healthy democracy. We don't have an healthy democracy in Guyana. So that is why they can charge terrorism. 29 people. I am saying they shouldn't be charged, but I am saying by no stretch of imagination could you describe what happened in Georgetown and elsewhere as terrorism. Not. But it's intended to drive fear to people, and people mustn't come out and talk and all this type of thing, right? And let me say this. We have had mass shootings in the US and elsewhere. Mass shooting. Children get killed at school and all. Those things are not defined as terrorism. Where a lot of children are killed, in many cases, adults killed. The US don't describe it as terrorism. But you have some people around on the road, they said a riot and the thing, and in Guyana, that is terrorism. And let me say further, before I move on to another issue. Let me say further. Yesterday was May Day in Israel, in Chile. They had massive protests. People some of the protesters, these guys, they have balaclava and so on. There, I think it's a Reuters article I saw last night. People pelting police vehicle with Molotov cocktail and all and everything. I know what was the response of the police? Water cannon. Let me, I think I have a tape here. Let me see if I can find it. Water cannon to quell that disturbance. And this is not the one. What I'm going to show you here is not yesterday, but to show you, I think this is a similar incident. Look. People tell there's a civilized way of dealing with crowd disorder. Water cannon, and the one yesterday, I saw I couldn't get it downloaded. The people were throwing Molotov cocktail. In other words, they were violent. They're throwing Molotov cocktail at the police vehicle, yet still they did not resort to lethal fire. They used water cannon. Some years ago, around 2010, 2011, Roy brought in a water cannon. He was then Minister of Home Affairs. Wonder what happened to the water cannon. I remember they had a demonstration in National Park and they used the water cannon, and people used to say that they could pee farther than the water cannon. Waste of money. And we get money now. So if you really want to plan to deal with public disorder, because I don't believe this is the last public disorder you're going to have, I'm not advocating for it, but if you're a planner, I used to be at operations in the force, you plan for these things. You plan for these things, and one would expect that they would do all of that. Water cannon. But no, they're not no water cannon. They go there shooting wild. Let me show you this one. I showed it already. Listen, look what's going on here. Is this one here? No, hold on. Look at this. Look at this.
He's a beast.
Relax, I'll come back. Here at the end, there's somebody call you, yeah, relax, yeah, come back. One has to assume that might have been the person in charge. Indiscriminate shooting and running behind people and shooting. And I said again, and you could see from the posture, one man in front and the next man some distance to the back and he's shooting. Imagine if the man in front had moved across his line of fire. Is that death police you're going to get? And they would have blamed the people in the crowd for doing it. No control. Absolutely no control. That's what's going on. And when you talk about it, vex. Look, even at Linden, we understand. Crazy shooting. One man in his yard, he claimed to have been in his yard. He gets struck in his eye. Man might lose his sight. The man was in his yard at the time. That is what is being alleged. And the man thing. Talking about Linden, what happened to the other part of the investigation? See, I tell you all, you got to be woke. You got to stay woke. The charge Kendall with the murder of Ronaldo Peters. And you ain't hearing nothing about the other man, Dan, who was shot and killed. You ain't hearing anything further about that. And that will tend to die a natural death. Inappropriate police action. Inappropriate police action. And let me show you next thing. You know, I showed this. Hold on. Let me show. Hold on. I showed this one. I think it was yesterday. I showed this one yesterday. Look, this one here.
What are you moving for? Face down. I want nobody here. Face down. Face down. Nobody raise their fucking head. Y'all like spicy Chinese. What y'all doing?
Here the behavior there. And I understand. You see a cutlass there. I understand the man who was wielding the cutlass is not a police. He's a member of a private security company. That's the information I got. The man who was wheeling there. And we saw Monday night, sheriff, security people out of the road, shooting at people, sheriff. And I ask the question, that is the playing with danger. What is sheriff security doing out in a situation like that? What are they doing out there? What are they doing out there? But you know, it fall into a plan, because I said about a year or so ago that it was clear that the government was arming these private security companies, right, to come out when they are disturbance. They have no confidence that the police will act professionally or the police will act at all. So they get this private security company, which are really more like militias, to come out and to deal with either by themselves or in conjunction with the police. And we saw evidence of that on Monday. That's a dangerous, dangerous game, especially with the sheriff security. I ain't got time to talk about them now, but I got a whole volume to talk about sheriff. The same man, Amir Ahmad, who gave Ikin $8.5 million to finance Brutus' wedding. Ikin admitted that in a statement. And he's not charged with misconduct in public office. He's not charged. He's promoted to commissioner. He's promoted to commissioner. And I'm warning again. It seems as though Sheriff and Amir and the owner, Amir Ahmad, they have authority to do whatever they want to do. Well, the man pay, we tell you when the man pay $8.5 million is not only for the wedding, but the man by immunity, he can do anything that he wants to do. They're going to run into the wrong people. They are going to run into the wrong people, because that what took place there with them out on the road and shooting and go, that is unacceptable. Who are the people? And we'll talk about who the people. Look again. Look at next. Look at this one. Look what they're allowing now in the police force. Look.
Yeah, top of the morning. I have a question for the president of Guyana and the commissioner of the Guyana Police Force. Why you have the police officers wearing masks? It's wrong. No, you don't need no police officer to wear masks. They need to be identified. If you come and knock on my door, you shoot me or something, I must identify that yes, it's this person. Yes, it's you shoot me. Yes, it's you commit a crime, because there's a lot of people out there who are committing crime. We're committing crime in Guyana and they're wearing masks. So enough you guys can identify them. Masks need to go. But they have to start from the police them, because the people do not trust the police them. So the police them need to remove the mask, Mr. President and the commissioner. The police them need to remove the mask. Then we're going to start with peace.
What are your views, students? I concur. Can't get police going out there with balaclava and so on, hiding the face. So what happens when somebody come down and dress similarly? That is what is going on. That is a lawlessness that is going on and is encouraged and permitted by Clifton Ikin, the current commissioner of police. Policemen will cover the face with balaclava, whole face cover. So when a man pick up a uniform and he come there and decide he can tell you that he's police, how are you to know that he's not a police? That they dress like terrorists there. They dress like terrorists. That is what is terrorism. That is unacceptable. Unacceptable. And I can't put in the adjective to the unacceptable. I can't put it in. But that is what is going on. CC, let me hear your comment on that, my brother. CC, what are your views? People, police wearing masks and all of that. I think you're muted. Let me see. You're muted. I'm not hearing you. Yeah.
Hear me?
Yes, I hear you now. Yes.
All right. Now, let me go back to this thing they call terrorism, you know. Are we to believe that we have domestic terrorism? But this thing is, you know, part of a dog whistle. Remember the supreme legal advisor of the government issues in the news. He talked about terrorism. He spoke about terrorism, dog whistle, and then the police, and then the police want to act on it. Remember, charge people and then no bail. And a lot of people that are charged that pick up innocent bystanders, persons who were there, and after the police had they're running away, and police grab them, and they're gone before the court. They're gone before the court. And then I even saw a vehicle, a police vehicle, that ramming into some other people who were together, literally ramming, drove into the whole set there, you know. So a whole lot of things going wrong. And then police must be properly attired. They must wear the police uniform. And later on, we're going to talk about sheriff, and we talk about dress of the private security person, what the law says how they must be dressed, and what the police doing there, they're covering their face. They're like criminals. People will believe them as bandits and perhaps shoot them too. They must wear their uniform, and they must be able to be properly identified. And if you see what happened with the private security, later on, I will talk about the private security and what the law says about uniform. Sheriff in play. You see sheriff. What's your sheriff doing there? They ain't got no training. What am I do there? And I see somebody write some nonsense that they're supernumerary constables. I doubt they're not security constables, but they're not trained for deal with crowd control. They're not trained to deal with these issues. Total chaos. But let me stop there and let you think, and then I come back, Paul.
Yeah, I agree with you. But let me tell you, even the army, even the army members of the Guyana Defense Force can't come out like that and be shooting. Can't. There's a protocol. If they come out to assist the police. If the situation becomes so uncontrollable, there's a protocol where the commissioner has to hand over, a written handover to the chief of staff for them to take control. If the police have expended all their resources and are unable to bring control into the system, then there is a formality. There is it's sad. It's sad. I sure the squat and them and know that. The squat and the comeback either they get head in the army, them and know that. It is sad. It's going to lead to chaos. More chaos, I should say. More chaos. Now, let me say, we had this order by the minister. The minister suddenly reappeared. Minister Ben, Robeson Ben, Home Affairs. I was surprised when I learned that he issued an order under the Public Order Act, Section 6. He put in a ban on assemblies and meetings and all this type of thing. I was surprised because when the last time I saw him before then, he was on the Linden Highway reading out oaths with the firemen and so on. And then for days we didn't see, I was a little worried for him because I thought maybe he was consumed by the fire. But no, the man turned out. He said he is prohibiting assembling of persons and marches and all that type of thing between 12:30 in the morning. This is the whole country, between 12:30 and 5 o'clock. Well, I asked the question, if you're going to prohibit assembly and gatherings and so on, why between 12:30 and 5 o'clock in the morning? Let's get assembly and gathering at that time. It was rather strange. I don't know what caused them to choose that time. I'm not saying that younger man assemblies and gatherings and so on. But why between 12:30 in the morning and 5? Why? Why? I don't understand why. So this thing, I think it was when, can't remember the date now. We had a program Wednesday, I think it came out Wednesday morning for the first time. The man withdraw, they get the next thing out. Official Gazette, 1st of May, yesterday, legal supplement B. Order made in the Public Order Act, Chapter 1603. In exercise of the powers conferred upon me by Section 6 of the Public Order Act, I make the following order. The order may be cited as the Public Safety Revocation Order 2025, right? And they say the Public Safety Order 2025 is revoked. That means the order that he issued a couple days ago, he revoked it now. He revoked it from yesterday. And I never say this because people were talking about curfew. There was never a curfew. A curfew is a different thing from an order prohibiting assembling and so on and so on, please. A curfew is more widespread. I went into it on Wednesday. I still see people writing, but the curfew lifted. There was never a curfew because you could have gone about your business. Well, they say they prohibited people from assembling. You can't assemble. You can't hold public meetings and so on. So there's not a curfew. So let me understand it. But there's jump and there's right and there's say all sort of thing. But you come to speaking out so we can give you the true thing. We can dissect it and we can bring it to you. Now, next story. Next story. Y'all share the live. Share the live. We got a full class, but we get more room. Share the live. Share the live. Because now the police issued a statement yesterday and they say update on ongoing investigation into the death of Adriana Young. This is yesterday they issued the statement. When I read this statement, I laughed. I laughed because I said, in the midst of the police being discredited for all that they did or failed to do, the police come out with a release which makes matter even worse. And I'm going to analyze and dissect because I didn't see nobody else do it. Let me read what they say first. Update on ongoing investigation, right? Pursuant to the ongoing investigation in relation to the circumstances surrounding the death of Adriana Young, the Ghana Police Force wishes to confirm that the owner of Doubleday Hotel, who was in police custody, was released after the statutory detention period had elapsed. He was thereafter instructed by investigators to report on a daily basis to the station until the outcome of the investigation. Further, the Immigration Department has blacklisted or prohibited the owner of the hotel from leaving the jurisdiction. Additionally, DNA samples obtained from the said individual and those of Adriana Young will be escorted this evening by a forensic investigator for advanced testing and analysis to be conducted at the Mount Sinai Health System, New York. As a result of the serious nature of the investigation, the general public is advised that Assistant Commissioner Khalid Mandal remains on administrative leave. Similarly, the undermentioned civilian employees and police ranks, respectively, I know why respectively, were sent on administrative leave pending the outcome of the investigation. The civilian staff who was also sent on administrative leave is the person who was on duty at the command center on the day in question. And she has admitted to the detective that she entered the wrong date whilst checking the camera system located within the vicinity of the Doubleday Hotel. She had been tasked to ascertain whether or not Adriana Young had left the above place. As a consequence of her error, she misled the ranks by reporting that she observed a female who fit the description of Adriana Young leaving the hotel with a male. Investigations have also revealed that there was a sergeant from the Special Constabulary Unit who misled her colleagues when she claimed that she was on duty at the region's operations center, and a male anonymous scholar informed her that Adriana Young was seen leaving the above hotel after joining a black Ram motor vehicle. In an effort to investigate the origins of the information about this vehicle, investigators managed to obtain the call information and arrested the so-called male anonymous caller. And it turned out to be that the caller is well acquainted with the Special Constabulary rank. He also informed detectives that he and the female spoke for 10 minutes, during which he told her that he was standing in front of the hotel when he overheard persons talking about the girl leaving in a black Ram. Hence, he related that said information to the special sergeant. The caller also confirmed the duration of the phone call as related by the individual. Finally, two other ranks, a corporal and a constable, were relieved of their duties due to neglect. The probe continues. Now we got a lot to unpack there. We have a lot to unpack. So I'm going to take Forrest Batin on this. Forrest Batin. Now I know they said the owner released. No, they didn't mention his name, They didn't mention his name. They said the owner released, no name mentioned. They didn't say if he released on bail. They have not said whether he's released on bail or not. We learned last week Friday when they had a protest in front of Lenora police station, we were advised that the people were suspicious as to whether the man was in custody, and we were told that the girl's father and somebody else went there and confirmed that this man was indeed there, right? That is, the hotel owner was indeed there. We learned after then, it was said that he was placed on $200,000 bail. That is what came out, right? $200,000 bail. All right, so they say he's on bail, but they didn't say what he's on bail. They said he got a report to, he was instructed by investigators to report on a daily basis to the station until the outcome of the investigation. Which station? Now I'll tell you that. It's BS, you know. Them people, they say good at BS, but we're going to unravel this nonsense. Which station was he told to report to? And then they say further, the immigration department has blacklisted or prohibited the owner from leaving the jurisdiction. Which jurisdiction? Is it the jurisdiction of the division? I understand when I talk about immigration, they mean you can't travel out to the country. What is the legality of that? What is the legality of preventing this man from leaving the country? I remember in the case of Marceline Washington versus the Attorney General, Justice Navendra Prasad ruled that the police have no authority, no power to prevent someone from leaving the jurisdiction. If they're investigating or if a person is charged and they want that person prevented from leaving, they have to go to the court and get a judge to issue an order. But here it is. That is not me saying so the ruling says so, you know. I know it well because I have had to go to the court on no less than 3 occasions after they bring them trumped up charges against me in 2021 to get permission to leave the jurisdiction. They can't stop you from leaving. Even with the David Patterson case, where they prevented him from traveling, the man will get money from the state because the state has no power to do it unless a court orders that. And here this quarter, they're allowing a release like this to come out to say that the man is blacklisted or is prohibited. That's the immigration. And let me tell you all in case you all know, when you talk about immigration, the Commissioner of Police, Clifton Ikin, is the Chief Immigration Officer by law. The Commissioner of Police is the Chief Immigration Officer. The man in charge there now, he is referred to as the Deputy Chief Immigration Officer. So the law says that the Commissioner of Police in Guyana is the Chief Immigration Officer. So he blocking the man from leaving the jurisdiction. I guess with all the worries over the man head, you ain't gonna carry him to court. Then the bombshell for me here now. The bombshell. Listen, student, listen carefully. The bombshell. It says, additionally, DNA samples obtained from the said individual and those of Adriana Young will be escorted this evening, that's yesterday, by a forensic investigator for advanced testing and analysis to be conducted at the Mount Sinai Health System in New York. DNA for what? Are they telling us they're investigating some other thing? If they're claiming, as they did, that this child drowned, and you're investigating how she drowned, how DNA fit into this? DNA from the victim and DNA from this one man. Are they suggesting to us that they're doing some other form of investigation where they need to identify these people by DNA and so on, identify body fluids or so? Is that what they are suggesting? I mean, when I read this thing, I said this thing boggles the mind. DNA testing. DNA is, in terms of the thing, is so they do DNA for the identify who the person is. You know, that's why you know too, they do DNA for the identify if he's a real daddy. Right? In them paternity cases and so on, man, I said the picture is not my own, and therefore they're going to order DNA. And the DNA will prove conclusively if that person is the father or not, or if it's a blue picnic. Attacking really Guyanese, down to earth, or if it's a blue picnic. So I don't know that they needed to identify the girl that died because there's not disputed. So why do they want DNA sample? Why did they take DNA from this deceased young lady, young girl, I should say? Why did they take DNA sample from her and DNA sample from the owner of the hotel? And these are the questions I would want the media people and them to ask. This suggests to me that there's more in the mortar than the pestle is not drunk in, because we said, I think part of the postmortem, they did say, and I believe that the girl wasn't molested, sexually molested. That is what they said. So why DNA? Why DNA? We got to ask that question. Maybe Iken will break his silence and tell us why the investigators want DNA samples. Well, not the samples, why they want the samples that they took from the deceased and the owner. Obviously, the suspect of committing some crime. Let me understand this thing clearly. Let me understand this thing clearly. The only reason they could have taken a DNA sample from the owner of the hotel and the girl is because they must be investigating something which suggests that he may have committed some act on this child. Why else would you want DNA? Why else would you want DNA? That's what I got to tell you. I play this thing over in my mind, play this thing when I read this thing yesterday. I got to all the angles and all the permutations. Why DNA? And I still can't come up with an answer. Because if, as they said, the child died in a drowning, the president, and I think somebody else, the vice president, they said it wasn't forcible, something like that they said. If you are now doing DNA investigation, it suggests to me that you're trying to link this owner of the hotel to something. You're not only investigating how the person drunk, maybe more than that. Because if you're investigating how the person drunk, I don't know you would want to have DNA. Are you suggesting maybe that there was a struggle and you found evidence under the girl's nail or somewhere there, and you want to know who she might have scratched? Well, you not only scratch, because you scratch, the victim or the perpetrator or the suspect would get scratch mark. This thing is worrying. And then they're quiet, then explaining nothing. They have to be investigating some criminal act by the owner. That is why they want DNA to conclusively say, well, the biological material they find belongs to you. What else? If I'm wrong, tell me that I'm wrong. Blanham, crime chief, and all of this, y'all tell me that I'm wrong. But I'm saying that even in the release that they're giving, they're obfuscating and they're bullshitting. But I'm going to read through the thing. Because as I said, when I hear DNA is to identify and to link suspect to some crime or so on. That is what DNA is about. That is what the DNA is about. If y'all are using DNA for something else, y'all tell me. I'm the brightest. I'm not the brightest. But I get a little reason and I get enough training. So therefore, I'm saying that if you are going to do a DNA use tsunami, hear what I say. Additionally, DNA samples obtained from the said individual, they're referring there to the hotel owner, and those of Adriana Young will be escorted this evening, that's yesterday, by a forensic investigator for advanced testing and analysis to be conducted at the Mount Sinai Health System in New York. Why are you doing a DNA test? Why are you doing that? And that is why I make the point that we have to have people who can inquire some more into these things. Let us listen to what I said, the issue release, and you leave it at that. Deep, why you doing DNA? What is being investigated that you need to make sure that you get DNA to determine whether this man did a particular act or whether some type of biological material found some way belonged to him. That's the only way, that's the only thing I want a DNA for. And then they said the civilian staff. Well, Selvin, exactly, we don't know what type of DNA, how they did it. And again, if you're going to do DNA, Selvin, remember, you would have to, apart from taking the sample from the person, you would have had to have found biological material somewhere. So this DNA is not, this swabbing is not done in isolation. You would have found something somewhere, and now you're doing a DNA, whether you do it cotton swab and all this other thing. I got a son who is a technologist in these things, so we know what we're talking about, right? Whether it's a pencil swab, whether from the mouth, under the finger, or maybe too, they just do you cut your hair, pull out the not cut. FBI say you pull the hair out by the root. Fingernail, let's say, is good material to determine DNA, fingernails and so on. So it bothers me immensely. Why are all of a sudden, when you left people to believe and you were telling people that this thing is drowned in, but suddenly now you are doing a DNA. You're doing DNA. Let me hear what's going to happen to the results. And then they said the civilian staff, able to say, CC, I can bring you just now. Can you seem to? Sometimes you can unravel these things. They said the civilian staff was also sent an administrative leave. That is in vogue now, administrative leave. May Thomas, administrative leave. Mandal, administrative leave. People who should have been sent home, administrative leave. And because somebody asked me the other night, what administrative was, I think was when they had what is administrative leave? I said administrative leave is a send you and say, cool your head. You're getting all your pay, you're getting everything. That's cool your head and relax. That is what administrative leave is. No one is deprived of any money or anything like that. You understand? So that is what administrative leave is. You tell them, I go cool out. So right now, May Thomas, as far as we know, she's still cooling out, getting pay. Because with administrative leave, you can't stop your pay. Can't stop your pay and your privilege and so on. Some Mandal, administratively, same thing. Can't stop your pay. So that's what administrative leave is. And I said, while checking the camera system located within it, she had been tasked to ascertain whether or not Adriana Young had left the above place. As a consequence of her error, they're calling them an error. A consequence of her error, she misled ranks by reporting that she observed a female, not a child. She observed a female who fit the description of Adriana Young leaving the hotel. Let me analyze that. She's there, and she observed this thing. Well, wait, you're not going to double check and so on? You're not going to system to make sure, in a critical case like this, to make sure that this very mistake is not made and that the report that she is giving is accurate? No, they ain't get that. Then I said investigators also revealed there was a sergeant from the Special Constabulary Unit who misled her colleagues when she claimed that she was on duty in the regional operations office, and a male anonymous caller. This is an anonymous caller informed her that Adriana Young was seen leaving the above hotel after joining a black Ram motor vehicle. In an effort to investigate the origins of the information about this vehicle, investigators managed to obtain the call information, and arrested the so-called male anonymous caller. But here the kicker. And it turned out to be that the caller is well acquainted with the Special Constabulary rank. So we see that he's going to be anonymous and he's well acquainted with the rank. They know each other. And the conversation between them went on for 10 minutes. What nonsense these people telling people, man? What nonsense they're telling people? How can you be there 10 minutes to talking to this rank? What you all talking about? 10 minutes, and he said that we see some car and all this other thing, right? Now, let me tell you the final part before bringing Mr. Conway. Then they go on to say, finally, 2 other ranks, a corporal and a constable, were relieved of their duties due to neglect. Now. Listen carefully. Kaicho News said today, 2 cops fired over Adriana death. Police said fire. The police release did not say that they were fired. They said they were relieved of their duties. Big difference. Big difference. They were relieved of their duty. That is what the police released that I am reading to you said. But Kaicho News, people making this leap, this quantum leap, to say that relieved of their duty means fire. No, I know it, sir. I don't know it like that. Relieved of the duty might tell you tell the station wherever they're there, you move it from there. They're relieved from their duty, maybe close arrest or whatever it is. But they did not say that these ranks were fired. They did not say that. Because if it is that they neglect, right? Although I know they extend this quarter, you get no regards for the Constitution, right? But it would have required a process. If they were accused of neglect of duty, they had to have been charged under the Police Discipline Act, Chapter 17:01. And if it's neglect, it is Section 4E1 of that Act, 4E1. If you fail to do anything which is your duty as a member of the force to do, that is a neglect. I know they think good, They're referring to no book. I'm there in the computer. So What again? You need clarification here. Were they dismissed? And I said the squad is known not to respect the Constitution. He would dismiss them without even going through the process, as he did to those 3 guys in the Quindon Backup case. They appeared in court on the 5th of July 2022. He dismissed them from the same date. Unconstitutional. There's a presumption of innocence, folks. The Constitution guarantees a presumption of innocence. So you can be accused of the most dastardly act, the most serious crime, including murder. Constitution says you are presumed innocent until you are found guilty by a competent court. Nonetheless, let's talk about it. The presumption of innocence. So I don't know what they're talking here about. The people relieved of their duty. I don't know if that equates to dismissal. I don't know, right? So y'all don't jump because the Kaichon you said this morning, cops fired and all them type of thing. You believe they're fired. I don't know that they're fired. I don't know, not from the release that the police gave. Now let me bring in Mr. Conway, and then we have more to talk about, whatever we see at this stage. CC, go ahead, man. I said a lot about this release you gave. Go ahead.
You said a lot, and I concur with you, you know. You on the ball. And I don't know, they're talking about administrative leave and they're talking about relief of duty. They may come up with another term. I read the release and there's a whole set of confusion, a whole set of nonsense that they write, you know. And then why DNA and why specify these 2 persons own DNA for the owner and the 11-year-old? Nobody else? Nobody else? Just the 2 of them? What is the connection? What is the connection? But let me deal with this thing they talk about immigration. Where immigration will blacklist people. And I always like to go to the Constitution, Paul, the supreme law. And I said before that any law you want to put in place, any order, any SOP, any administrative action, it got to fit neatly within the Constitution. It is very clear. The Constitution is very clear. And when you look at Article 148, I'm going to read it. I get it in my head, but I want to read it. It talks about protection of freedom of movement. Protection of freedom of movement. Here was a no person shall be deprived of his or her freedom of movement. That is to say, the right to move freely throughout Guyana, the right to reside in any part of Guyana, the right to enter Guyana, the right to leave Guyana, and immunity from expulsion from Guyana. There's Article 148. And 148, the 41, and 148.3, they get from A to H, but I only will deal with A. It would say, nothing contained or done under the authority of any law shall be held to be inconsistent or in contravention of this article, to the extent that the law in question makes provisions for the imposition of restriction by order of court. Let me go for the imposition of restriction by order of court on the movement or residence within Guyana of any person or any person's right to leave Guyana, either in consequences of his or her having been found guilty of a criminal offense under the law of Guyana, or for the purpose of ensuring his or her appearance before a court at a later date for trial for such a criminal offense, or for proceedings preliminary to the trial, or for proceedings relating to his or her extradition or unlawful removal from Guyana. So what is this law saying clearly is that no commissioner ain't get any power to stop anybody from leaving the country. If you want them to leave, you have to go before the court. The court has got to decide that. And it's specifically if you have court matter, you're on trial, or you're waiting for preliminary investigation into your trial, that the court has got to pass the order. I know immigration could stop you. Always remember Clarence Chumato, when they were conducting some investigation and when he was custom chief, and his lawyer Rex McKay said, let me test out to see whether they black your Timeri. And he bought a ticket to go to Trinidad. He didn't intend to go anyway. And he went up to Timeri and they blocked him. They blocked him and he took legal action against him. And he won a whole set of money. And Paul Dudley will tell you, in Jamaica, I remember when I was in there on a British sponsored scholarship, they used to call it stop order. The commissioner was Thompson, and he used to put stop order to the immigration. And by the way, I think immigration in Jamaica is not police. So the commission said, stop these people from leaving the island. And and somebody questioned it, and the judge ruled that the stop order was illegal. Just like you gotta go before the court. The court has got to decide that. Not the commission. The commission gonna pour for stop nobody from leaving the country. The law is clear. The law is clear. Check Article 148 and it's 148.3. And it's telling you exactly what is the procedure if you want to prevent persons from leaving the country. The commissioner has no authority, none whatsoever. And coming back to the statement that they write there, a whole set of it's mind-boggling, and going back to DNA and all kind of nonsense, And then they say the first statement that they put out, they said the girl joined a vehicle, black and red rum. They say, and they didn't say in the original statement when it was fresh in their memory that somebody fit in the description. Now there wasn't for putting fit in the description. They didn't say somebody fit in the description. They said she joined a vehicle, and they said they see she at Perico, at Vredemoop, and elsewhere. So it's not mistake they make. It's not error they make. It's lies and more lies. How can we get confidence in a police force like that where lies there? How can they do a proper, credible information? And up to now, we know who is spreading the investigation. We know who is in charge. We ain't hear nothing from Lanham, the crime chief. We ain't hear nothing from Grant Demand in charge of crime in Region 3. Nothing at all. So, and they also cook up and cook up. And then the president talking a lot of nonsense. The vice president talking a lot of nonsense too, So the whole thing they're hustling to cover up. And more they also cover up, the more they're exposing themselves. Therefore, they are not credible, and we will not have any credible investigation done. They need to get outside there. They need to bring the FBI, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, the FBI, or some other thing. That it's the proper investigation need to be done. And up to now, that place should still be a crime scene. But they man lock down nothing. They man hold up people. They man do nothing. You don't even know who they're talking to. They know what they say what offense the constables and the corporal commit that will relieve of their position. The whole thing is ridiculous, Paul. Ridiculous. I can't find words to describe what is going on in that investigation, or if you could call it investigation. A lot of BS taking place.
A lot of BS taking place. Now, let me say this. A student called me this morning. He might say, look, I'm sure that they can get satellite image. They said again, good friend with the US. Satellite image from the morning that this child, towards the morning up to when the child was discovered. That will be interesting. I'm sure that record there's some way they could go and see when the child was put there, because I'm convinced that the child was put. Undoubtedly, yes, we have laws dealing criminal negligence in Guyana. We have laws to deal with that. But here was the story. I heard they talk about criminal negligence, and then they're hustling now to say that the grandmother was negligent in that she didn't pay a lot of attention to the child. And let me say this. If you're going to talk about negligence, this is a facility to which the public has access. Some 1 year ago, Ben passed some law or some regulation saying that pools, especially pools that public have access to, must get certain things in place. You got a pool there. According to the grandmother and according to the information where you're going there, you can't just jump in the pool like that. You have to buy a band. You have to buy a band. So right away, the people who owns this pool and who charging a fee for you to go in, they have a responsibility for your safety and security there. So if we're going to talk about negligence at that place there, you got to talk about the hotel people themselves. You got to talk about the taking money from people. What arrangement you get. And then there they get, you taking money, and then they get some sign saying that you're swimming at your own risk. And some of these jackasses, the trolls, because, oh, well, they got a sign say you're swimming at your own risk. What? When you're taking people money, you have a responsibility. You have bodyguard there, and all, not bodyguard, lifeguard there, and all of that. You are taking people money to allow them to go there, and therefore you have a responsibility for the safety. Lifeboats, or what they call it, life boys, all these things ought to be there. So if you see anybody in difficulty, you throw it in so they can think. So they're coming with all sort of things. They're coming with all kind of things. But the more you analyze it, the more you recognize that they're talking a lot of nonsense. They're talking a lot of nonsense. They're trying to shift the burden. Because at the end of the day, if we examine what took place there from the time the child went missing to the time the child was recovered, right? You could see no proper policing. And let me say this, because I think it was Stabrook too some talk about people talking about neglect and people talking about dereliction. I believe it is more than that, given what we have been told. Deliberate attempt to mislead and to get the people away from there. That's not only neglect, that might very well be collusion. That might be collusion. That might be some of the action might amount to perverting the course of justice. Some of the action might be accessory after the fact of crime. Because the law says, and we talk about accessory, if a crime is committed and you attempt to cover up in any way, conceal or anything like that, you are an accessory to the crime after the fact. Because I told you, a person can be connected in a crime with a crime in 4 ways. Principal in the first degree, principal in the second degree, accessory before the fact, accessory after the fact. I am saying that the evidence might very well suggest a proper investigation that they were accessories after the fact. In other words, people knew that the girl died, and then they decided they're going to be involved in a cover-up. That is accessory after the fact. I made the point again, and I'm repeating it. Did they interrogate the telephone records of all those people? The policemen who were there, the commander, the squatter? Did they interrogate the telephone record to see who called a particular person at what time? They might very well find that the owner of the hotel called police and called politician. They might very well find that the politicians called the squatter, called the commander. They can find that the commander called the commander, the commissioner rather called the commander for give instructions and so on. Of course, the telephone recorder can tell you what they say, but you will establish a pattern of the calls. I remember with the Linden Commission of Inquiry, when Iken was asked if he called Rui, the Minister of Home Affairs of the Park, he denied. They checked the record and showed that the phone assigned to Iken did make a call to the phone assigned to Rui. And when Rui went into the witness box and he was confronted, he admitted that during the same time Iken called him, which meant Iken was under oath, and which meant that he should have been investigated for perjury. He lied under oath. But no, notwithstanding all of that, they promoted to commissioner. After that, he get promotion there. I think he was assistant commissioner then. He got promoted to commissioner. That is what you have. Most incompetent and corrupt people running the system. And again, I say spare a thought for the many competent, diligent, honest policemen they have. Because when they're bashing, I know that they have competent, honest, and diligent policemen in the force. I know. Senior levels and junior levels. I know. And you got to spare a thought for them when you hear what is going on. The people who you expect to lead you are not providing any leadership. Look, Linden issue. The killing of those 2 men at Linden. The killing of this girl and all the commotion thereafter. The commissioner of police, Clifton Ikin, has not made a single public statement. They're issuing some release through the public, the unit there, the propaganda unit there. But how can that suffice? Where else in the world you can get all them story going on and the man in charge of the force, certainly not in developed countries or developing countries, we're not going to face the media and tell the public what is going on. But this one, they're hiding him. They're hiding him. You know why they're hiding him? Because they know that he is incompetent. They know. Why else would you shield him? They know that the man what they put there is incompetent, and therefore they don't want to expose him more. But in hiding him, you are exposing him. It might sound paradoxical, but in hiding him, you are revealing that this man is an NFG. The man is NFG. The N is to know, the G is so good. You decide what the F stands for, but he is NFG. Again, I say the N is to know, and the G is so good. F, you determine what this F is for. That is what you have. In all that is going on, that is what you have. And let me remind you, before I bring in Mr. Economy, let me remind you, somebody calling and bouncing me off. GHK Lal said it best. He said, what we have today is not a government, but a gang of gangsters. For the most part, what Guyanese are for leaders today are nothing but out-of-control lunatics, pathological liars, unreconstructed racists, and political sadists. That's part of what GHK Lal said. And it is true. It is true. Gangsters, we have. Gangsters. And Jack Deody referring to, I think it's Mohammed, Azuddin Mohammed, as a wannabe gangster. And he might be wannabe. He might be wannabe, but they get properly established gangsters in the government. In the government, you get gangsters. Al Capone, you get Alibaba and the 40 thieves. Us old people remember them, picture them though. That is what you have. That, and they're coming and they're calling, and they're like point finger, you know. And I say this again, when they talk about credible investigation and Jack Dio talking us, I think we must always remember the allegation against him by Sue and the investigation with Vice News, which is that he takes, not took, you know, he takes, they say, $500,000 to facilitate Chinese businessmen to get business. That is what the allegation is. Did they investigate that? No. No investigation. They said that he sued Sue for some $50 million or something. But given the money that they talk about with Sue, $50 million is not no money. But where is Sue? What has become of that case? As I've said, what going to happen there? Sue, they're going to get default judgment because Sue ain't going to put up no defense if he's still around. They're going to go and they're going to get the court going to say default $50 million or whatever number they're going to give to Jack Dio. And, well, I know Sue in there, so he can get it. How he's going to get it. What is designed, that was designed for shut people up. To say, well, yo, I outrage. This man is causing, the man is besmirching my character. If that is so, call for a credible investigation. Y'all talk about the FBI being given certain evidence, or they provide you with certain evidence which has been investigated by CID that is in relation to the paper shot murder. What happened since then? And not only paper shots, in relation to the sanctions. Because when they talk about sanctions, they love to tell you that the Mohammeds are sanctioned. Yes, they are. But they not tell you that May Thomas, a senior government official, sanctioned along with them. And in the sanction document, the people refer to government officials, plural, as being corrupt. Government officials. But they only name one, May Thomas, who was sanctioned. But they did say officials, meaning that there are more than one. And I made the point. They say the FBI, not FBI, whoever the U.S. government, State Department, and over. Now, based on what the sanction document had said, you're going to conduct investigation. Who are the other players that the people talked about? Who are those players? So if you can investigate. But because I know whatever information would have been given to you, it would not have excluded the other players. It wasn't just about the Mohammeds and May Thomas, but the other government officials would have been named as well. So y'all carry on and tell people, FBI provided Nandalal and them. FBI provided some, not FBI, the State Department provided the information we requested in terms of what led to the sanction. Yeah. They provide. And then you're investigating and so on. Let me see what's going to happen. Let me see. Let me bring in Mr. Conway for give his closing because I'm going to give y'all therapy and so on. And we're going to give a look forward. CC, your closing remarks, my brother.
Just quick question, and an observation. Because the grandmother said she gave her money to go and buy a band. I wonder if they check the person who should have been selling that band. I wonder if the internet person. And also, they found her in the pool. I think she had on the jeans. So we're going to swim with jeans, Anyway, but I don't want the private security to get off. And let me talk. We're talking about dress. We saw how sheriff security was dressed. We saw how the police they were dressed. And I want to read from the Private Security Act, Section 16.1, talk about private security guards and supervisors. Here we say, a private security agency shall issue to every private security guard and every supervisor employed or engaged by it a photo ID card with distinct identification number, special uniform, special badges, and caps indicating the logo or emblem of the private security agency concerned as approved by the controlling authority. And the controlling authority is the Commissioner of Police. So they got to wear special uniform. And I repeat some of the particulars: special identification number, special uniform, special badges, caps indicating the logo or emblem of the private security agency concerned as approved by the controlling authority. And I know in our days, particularly Larry Lewis days, where they used to come, somebody come dress up with the uniform, and we look at it and say, hey, no, this one get too much of red, or this one get blue, or this one looking like police. That the commissioner has got to approve the uniform. And it finished there. And section 17.3 say, here do I say, while on duty, every security guard and all supervisors shall wear the uniform and badge given to him and shall display on his person the photo identity card issued to him under subsection 1 unless otherwise approved by the controlling authority. Read over. While on duty, every security guard and supervisor shall wear the uniform and badge given to him and shall display on his person the photo identity card issued to him under subsection 1 unless otherwise approved by the controlling officer. So what it's saying is that when on duty, you got to wear the approved uniform and nothing else. You have to wear the approved uniform. When we go, we see that dressing worse than bandits. And I think the commissioner, they get the police, they get a squad or a unit that's going to check on them. Why here, Jackie Opel playing out? They come and find them at fault. Say, hey, you got to come up or I'm going to report you, and you're likely to lose your your license would be cancelled. And then we know that the man pay 8.5 billion for a wedding. So we pay 8.5 wedding for a wedding and said keep the change. Other things is going to come into place. So the whole security section, the private security, the act the act is not being obeyed. They're not following the act. They're doing their own thing, and particularly with the way they are dressed, they need to wear the uniform as approved by the commissioner. And in my closing, my financial report is that there's still a lag by the other department in terms of investigation. Perhaps the finances, what's happening at the Region 1, or what took place in Region 1, what happened in the Police Finance Office and the other regions. Millions and millions and millions of dollars in the regions in terms of financial irregularity, in terms and millions, and they ain't doing nothing about it because they say them and the extended squatter, his friend, and the extended squatter, they in it, and the finance officer, they in it, and the Region 1 man, they in it, but they're working together, so nothing will come out of it. But I will continue to repeat, I continue to call for proper investigation. The RD department must get going. They must get going and investigate millions and millions. And I still hear the 157 pounds of cocaine that I kept back in Region 1. They don't get market for it yet. They're tackling some people in charity, but then get market for the 157 pounds of cocaine that they did not declare.
157 pounds. That's criminal enterprise. Criminal enterprise. Now, people have said to me a long time now that I show this corruption tape. So I'm going to show the corruption tape. We get a little time, and then we're going to close off. Here we go.
Corruption is a vile disease that sucks and drains the health out of something good. Corruption in society is an evil moral infection that keeps community in a state of perpetual sickness. Corruption is a moral virus. It's so potent it leaves its host sick, lethargic, and unable to realize and accomplish all that a well person can. Where corruption thrives, poverty and not prosperity thrives. Wealth is grabbed into the greedy, grubby hands of those who get fat on the toil and labor of good people. Corruption benefits, only temporarily, those who participate in it. Everyone else is a victim of the theft, the deceit, the dishonesty, and the lies that corruption feeds on. You need to know that a corrupt person is stealing from you. Corruption is filthy work and despicable acts of treachery done under the table and behind closed doors. Corruption is a disgusting shame. Corruption keeps a nation back from true development and from progress. Wise investors steer clear of a corrupt environment. They would rather put their resources into a place where the playing field of opportunity is equal for all and not bent towards feeding the financial lust of corrupt, lying, cheating, thieving politicians and government officials. How many wonderful development projects have been lost because the investors didn't want to do business in a swamp of evil? When those great projects go to another nation or to some other place, we all lose. Believe me when I tell you that corruption steals from you, it steals from all of us. Corruption plunders the nation's wealth. Corruption people compromise on truth, equity, and fairness, choosing instead to feed off the short-term benefits of crookedness, exploitation, and financial perversion. Corruption is not just a personal matter. It's a culture. It's a way of life, not just for individual people, but for companies, communities, governments, and nations. Corrupt nations, hiding behind large companies, will seek to invest in other weak nations in order to take over the assets of the nation that they've invested into. They will provide financial loans to a nation for the much needed infrastructure, and they will do it with assets that they provide. They will sign contracts by lining the pockets of rotten government officials who participate in this kind of corruption and are then held hostage by their own deceit and greed. Corruption is nothing less than a form of theft and national robbery. A corrupt person steals from everyone in society. We all lose when corruption is rampant. Those who participate in corruption have chosen evil over good, lies over truth, and personal gain over well-being of all. To be corrupt means to be rotten. When meat is corrupt, it's rotten, and it stinks. Rotten meat can't be eaten. When a person is corrupt, he's rotten and unfit for a place in the community. A corrupt person should be jailed in order to protect society from the vile deeds of the corrupt person. Government should be protecting us from the foul results of corruption instead of being the proponents and participants in corruption. When corruption is systemic, when it's a culture and a way of life, when corruption thrives, it destroys the health of the community and nation. Now let me tell you something. Defeating corruption is a very difficult thing. The love of money is the root of all evil, the Bible says. People who love money will do almost anything to get it. Those who choose to stand up against corruption, you need to know that we're going to be involved in a war. We will be threatened, vilified, intimidated, marginalized, and ridiculed. These kind of people who stand up against corruption will often feel alone, as if they are the problem instead of the solution. Corruption can only be defeated when enough people have had enough and decide to do something about it.
That is what corruption is. It's not me saying, you hear what is being said about corruption. Folks, as we about to leave, again, the Zelle number, the Cash App number, and the MMG number is there for those of you who are willing and able of the means, of the wherewithal to make a contribution to this program. Please do so. Give generously so that we can continue to come do a research and to bring information to you. What I neglected to mention to you at the start, some people were asking me about my court date. I told you on Wednesday I had a court date this morning. Well, we had the date and virtually, and my lawyers have submitted a no case submission, and the defense, the prosecutor, police prosecutor, asked to reply, and he expected to do so. And we have to go back for the 22nd of this month for him to give his response to the no case submission. So the 22nd of this month, I am there in court again. I want to remind you too of Monday, those of you who are in New York, Pi's funeral by Dana on Monday. Those of you want to pay last respect. I also want to remind all of those who are living in New York, and not New York, I said New York, and the USA, I have some valuable financial information to provide to you. And I think you can do well even in these turbulent times. Provide me with your email, and I will send it to you as a book. The book title is Saving Your Future. This is what it looks like. Well, I have the electronic version as well, which I can send to you if you provide me with your email. I think we get time this after. Well, let me tell you going forward, no Monday coming is a public holiday in respect of arrival day in Guyana, and we are going to consider where we should come. I know Barlett is the man who would normally decide whether we come or not on Monday, because Monday this girl is supposed to be buried as well. But we might very well come again on Monday. We still have a lot of things to talk about. So stay tuned, and we might very well come on Monday to bring you some valuable information. Things so fluid in this country to this Friday. By Monday, that's how the thing can happen. We can even hear that the squatter decide to pack up. We can hear that he can decide he can't take it no more. Oh, Lord, I can't take it no more. And decide that he's going to chuck. All that we can hear, which we'll have to bring to you. Now, I'm going to give you the other therapy, but there's another one. Hey, got a nice bag, Let me show you all this one. I'll show you how I can enjoy this one. Look at this one. Look.
First class. Anytime love, don't go money, everybody look short. Everything my shot. When you pull up, them off a road left back. 9 ball in the kick, come back. The LG, so me fly them back.
Protocol, we have one get shot. Money get pop, boy, place get hot. Things out, everything.
Protocol. Let me play the back, man. This thing, I laughed so much when I saw this thing. I said, I got to share it with the students, man. Yeah, look what going on here. 3 buys a piece of wood. Look,
I love chat, them I run them blind.
First class. Every time I love, don't you go down with it, everybody I'm shot.
And I run them black. When you pull up, them off a road left back. 9 ball in the kick, come back. The LG, so me fly them back.
Protocol, we have one get shot. Money get pop, boy, place get hot. Things out, everything.
Protocol, who's scared. When I saw that thing, man, it cracked me up. I said, I got to share this with you so you get a nice laugh for the weekend, folks. That can be all for today. I got to congratulate you on your attendance this Friday afternoon. Hope you have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Be safe. More than anything else, be safe. Every day is a crisis in Guyana. Every day. Last night, man got killed. The night before, people getting killed. A whole set of things. Blood. So be careful, students. Be extremely, extremely careful. And not only you got to take care of you got to take care of your neighbor. You have to take care of your family and everyone. So until we meet again, God spare life. Most likely, I don't know if you can meet on Monday, but I said stay tuned and we are going to let you know. Until then, stay well. Bye.